I often say that most people don't know the definition of words that they use.
Yes,
I actually did a TED talk in 2018 talking about the power of failure. And most people think that failure is final. Failure is only when you decide to say, I stop. But here's the textbook definition of failure: the omission of expected or required action. So if you just stop, that's when you fail.
Right.
But to try something, all you're doing is collecting data. And so unfortunately, people have a misconception of what they think failure is, not knowing that all they're doing is collecting data. And that's why I say every time that I went through a failure that the society deemed as failure, it just showed me what not to do. Family, what's going on? Will Roundtree here, and you are tuned in to the FullTime CEO podcast, where we interview dope, influential individuals, businessmen, businesswomen, gurus, all that good stuff. But more importantly, we talk about sports, culture, entertainment, finance, and all that good stuff. I am sitting here with my co-host,
Mr. C. Blair, Curtis Blair in the building, man. We are here in Las Vegas at Mercaditos, and we are interviewing Mr. Zach King today. This is the entrepreneur that is in the ownership of this building and many other businesses here in Las Vegas as well, also across the country.
Yes, sir. I appreciate y'all having me, man. So it's really a blessing. Love what y'all are doing. Like I say, for our culture and our people, and just anybody who's in business trying to get either funded or just scale, quite frankly, man, this is the way to go. So truly a humbling experience to be here, and I'm excited to talk to y'all, man.
But before we give away all the GMs, let's talk about Zach King, your start.
So let's take it from the top, man. So I was born to an entrepreneurial family, man. My grandfather, Moses White, had nightclubs, restaurants in the 40s and 50s. I helped a lot of artists, Percy Sledge, James Brown, all these different people kind of get started with funding. Essentially, before there was real funding, it was almost like this chicken circlet funding, right?
So he was a hood banker.
Yeah, but he understood that, to get ahead in any background, you're going to have to be your own boss. But especially as a black man in segregation, he understood that. So that was kind of like the first person or family person who kind of took that risk. He was from Alapaha, Georgia, moved to Tampa, Florida, started doing yards, and then the yard business ended up turning into a barbecue business, into a nightclub business, into a funeral home business.
That's
and literally he had probably like a place like this little strip center, and he owned the whole block. And it had from a nightclub to a shoe shine to a barbershop to a funeral home. And his motto was, from the cradle to the grave, you're going to pay me. From you born to you eat to you die, you're gonna have to somehow be in part of this financial circle.
Right.
So that was the first person who kind of did it. But the biggest lesson I learned from him, he died when I was 9 months old. But the biggest lesson I learned from afar is he showed his kids and family members how to get money, but he really didn't he showed them what it looked like to have money, but didn't really show them the process. So many times in minorities, somebody becomes like, grandfather was a millionaire, but then there's so much struggle with that transfer of wealth. Now the next generation almost doesn't know how to maintain it or scale it. And now here I am almost starting at rock bottom again, the same way he was, even though technically, granddaddy was a millionaire. You should have had the blueprint laid out.
Right.
So we don't do well with that a lot of times, with that handoff of wealth. Somebody can make it, but can you nurture it? Can you scale it? Or can you, quite frankly, not mess it up? Right. So that's what I saw, and I always knew I kind of wanted to be. And you know how like Hov says, like, people like ghosts are talking to you, chicks and ghosts. Yeah. I've always kind of felt that way. And because I never really had him to call for advice. So I kind of had to look at his model and just kind of grow it from there. But I always knew from day one, I didn't really want to work for nobody. I wanted to have my own money. And even different people I saw, like the level of wealth I wanted, they weren't going to a 9-to-5 job. Nothing wrong with 9-to-5 jobs, but just the level that I wanted wasn't there. So, obviously big guy, football, sports, obviously heavy in my family. I went to University of Florida, played football, but I knew pretty quickly that I wasn't going to go pro.
Give us a few guys you played with back in Florida.
I mean, everybody, from right now, probably Channing Crowder would be the biggest name from a social standpoint right now. But you name it. I mean, was Max Starks, Pouncey Twins,
Okay.
Aaron Hernandez, Tebow, Crowder, Bobby McCray, all these different guys, right?
Did you see Hernandez do anything crazy?
No, I mean, yeah, you could kind of see what's out there. I ain't gonna go on air saying nothing, but you could just tell he was a live wire. It was just so many Rolling Stones from 2006 to 2007 on Florida campus, not only football, but basketball. But I saw pretty quickly, I'd say probably my second year playing, wasn't getting much PT. And I could just see like the people in front of me weren't getting drafted. And I've always been good at like assessing situations. Like if the top person is not getting drafted, who's playing in front of me, chances are like, I already see the handwriting on the wall.
Definitely.
And so it was that point, I probably was 21 and I kind of already went into reinvention stage. Okay. I'm still on campus, still getting my degree, but I'm hustling. I'm selling jerseys, tickets. I'm like almost like your hustle man or agent, if you will, on campus. And a lot of older people just connected me with that. They say, man, this dude, he ain't playing ball no more, but we can talk to Zach and we can still wheel and deal. So that was where I knew as long as I could sell something and as long as I was good with relationships and networks, I was going to be okay in business. So because I provided value to somebody.
So at what point in time did your dialect and your mouthpiece come as a part when you were coming up through being an athlete into the transition into being an entrepreneur? Because a lot of guys don't have that savvy, that business savvy, the conversation piece.
So I think it comes down with a confidence. I played ball, but I was Zach King first. I wasn't the football player. And then you find out who I am. I always introduce myself as myself. And hopefully you fell in love with me as a person. And then you almost like basically segregated the football, the athlete side and who I was as a person. I immediately tried to add value to that. And so, just at the end of the day, I play football, but I also am this person as a whole. And I think a lot of players struggle with that because so much of their identity is put into the sport.
Exactly.
Oh, you play for so-and-so. Like, you don't even know who I am, but you just know who the team is. So I immediately tried to do that and quite frankly had to do it because I knew I wasn't good enough to go to the next level.
Gotcha.
So I'm like, all right, I know I want money and I want to get to the next level. The segue for 2 seconds. The other thing that I saw from a young age, from a business standpoint, my business partner who actually is partnered in this restaurant here, is an Asian guy who's Taiwanese. And I use this story. There's a neighborhood in Tampa called Avila, and it's a very famous neighborhood. Pete Sampras, Warren Sapp, all these different ball players live there. But one day I go home with my Asian homeboy, and, they said they have Chinese restaurants. They're just regular entrepreneurs, but nothing, they ain't on ESPN.
Exactly.
So, I go to his neighborhood, I see his house, beautiful home. And I start seeing some of these other people. I'm like, well, damn, he got a bigger house than Derek Jeter. And my Chinese homeboy got a bigger house than Warren Sapp. Damn, his house is about 2,000 square feet more than Pete Sampras. So I'm just thinking, like, I ain't got to play ball because all he doing is selling egg rolls and fried rice. And, he got his house twice as big as Warren Sapp. Yeah. So I'm like, nothing against Sapp. We love you. But, like, this dude is just selling, orange chicken.
So it's awesome.
And so it hit me immediately, like, there's another option. And so when football didn't work out, that's immediately when I kind of got back into the restaurant business, graduated at college in 2007, immediately started my first concept, which was called Chicken Now. Fast food chicken tender concept, similar to Raising Cane's, but a little bit more, homemade with a little spin on it. And all of our restaurants were inside the food court, like all food courts. It was 2007 before the recession and before online shopping really took off. But that was like my first dive in. I partnered with that same buddy and his dad. And our first store was in Orlando, Florida. And like I was telling Will kind of before we started the show, when you're in the food court business, sometimes you'll open up another business just to prevent McDonald's or Chick-fil-A or somebody from coming in there. And that's what we did with the chicken concept. That was kind of my first start to entrepreneurialism. But that was the catalyst that put it through grandpops, football not working out, and just seeing other ethnicities and other people with money who, if I play ball, great. But man, if I don't, I'm still gonna be all right.
So you open up the restaurants. I just know you became a millionaire in like 90 days, right?
A little bit.
That's what people think nowadays.
Yes and no. All right, so we did hit $1 million. The first store was $1.2 million. Okay. Called Chicken Now, right in Orlando Prime Outlets. It's now Orlando Premium Outlets on iDrive. First store, $1 million. I'm 23 years old. I know how to cook. I know how to do everything, but I don't really know business, if you will. Like I know how to fry the chicken and make sure your chicken is good and everything's on point, but I don't really know the ins and outs. And what I mean by business is, hiring people. I'm 23 years old. I'm the youngest person on my staff. I'm hiring convicted felons. I'm trying to give people a chance. I'm catching all the hell that a young entrepreneur would have. And obviously employees taking advantage of that. So that was my first thing.
So you're saying by employees taking advantage in that restaurant business, people were taking money.
Yeah, I mean, a restaurant, they can rob you. They can rob you.
How much chicken did they steal?
I mean, I would say at least a case a day.
Oh,
right, because you start a new business, you really don't know your food cost. You just started, right? Yeah. So you might have to change prices, you might have to do promos and specials, so you don't really know your true cost. Like Chick-fil-A, Popeyes, they got their costs dialed in. But for a mom and pop first store, you don't have contract pricing. You just kind of, hey man, I think we did good today. We made us some money. It's not till maybe the end of the month that you see that P&L and you're like, man, damn, we really didn't make as I thought I could. Right, yeah. And I always tell people can rob you the other way. If people on their phone all day, they're not working, you losing customers, they robbing you. If their cousin come and they get a free meal, technically they robbed you. If you're paying somebody per hour and they don't work that, they're robbing you. So you can get robbed a lot of ways other than just people taking money. Right.
And that's the thing I often tell people, especially when you're going into a brick and mortar business, is that just because you're a good cook doesn't mean you can run a restaurant.
Not at all.
Just because you are a great mechanic don't mean you can run an auto repair shop, because we haven't been taught the mechanics of business.
Correct. And most times those people don't do well, like chefs.
They don't.
They can make a great plate, but they don't know management.
Right. They don't know management. They don't understand payroll. Nothing. They don't understand taxes. They don't understand, the laws that are and so this, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I think there's such a misconception with anything. Not even a brick and mortar. I see a lot of people that go into an online business.
Correct.
And they don't understand scale.
Totally.
In order to scale, you can't be your marketing person, your CFO, your CEO. You can't be your HR department.
CFO.
You have to put yourself in position to be able to relinquish those areas of your business, because I'm pretty sure. Well, let me ask you.
Yeah, please.
Did you try to run every post when you first started the business?
So when we first started with talking about social media posts?
No.
Every position.
Every position.
Every position.
All right. So it's tough. So the first part is, if it's your business, you should know every position.
You should definitely know.
Right.
Definitely.
As far as management, I didn't. But what I found is the hardest post, most people don't want to work. So let's take a restaurant. Who want to clean the grease trap?
Not me.
Nobody. Who want to take out the trash? Nobody.
I did wash the
take out
dishes.
the trash.
You know what I'm saying? Right.
I'm out the floor and take out the trash.
But the real grimy. A lot of people don't want to get their hands dirty or take the responsibility of it. And then let's say the customer service. Hey, we got 20 people outside complaining. Who want to talk to them? So a lot of the key things, people are shy away from the real responsibility. So some of those posts are thrown on you.
Definitely.
And then some of the posts, you have to know everything. And in some honestly times in situations, if I knew I wasn't the best fit, then let's say you wanted to see a female cashier or something. Sometimes in certain situations, I knew to be a ghost because it made the most sense for the business.
Mm-hmm.
The last part of your question is, some people don't want to scale. So if you don't want to scale, you can be mom and pop and micromanage everything. Me, I have 55 chicken restaurants. So, I can't be everywhere at one time. So I was day one, I was trying to train you and bounce, train you and lead. But a lot of times, these mom and pop places, the mom and pop places, I'm gonna be here tomorrow. Why would I relinquish that power?
Right.
Which is a key important part. A lot of people don't want to get better.
They
don't.
Let's talk about another important aspect of business that I think a lot of people don't look at: the accounting, the economics.
Yeah.
Just because you make $500,000, that $500,000 are not going in your pocket.
Oh no.
And this is what a lot of entrepreneurs think. So if they make $100. They think that's $100 profit. You may see $3 out of that 100 when you first starting off.
Correct.
Because you still have so many expenses that are going out. How did you learn that aspect of the business early?
Oh man, I think so many of these lessons, and we try to do all the preventative measures, but so many of these lessons are just learned the hard way.
That's what I want people to know.
Yeah, when you got a cash call, that you got to come up with, when God forbid you've already spent that money because you thought you really had what you thought you had, but it wasn't. A lot of people are running it mom and pop, and let's say they're making $100,000 a month. That's a lot for a family.
Yeah,
that's a lot for a family to see come through an account, and they think, and as long as you open the next day and your cash flow can support it, you technically will be okay. Right. But that's that big company model versus mom and pop model. Sometimes that's when the money gets funny, and people just don't understand. Look, this is not really what it is. And then the last part of what your question is the rainy day. Right. God forbid the ice machine break. Ice machine $3,500. Yeah. We didn't make $3,500 a day, right? Nope. So you get what I'm saying? Now, somebody got to come up with this.
No, for sure.
And so that's the thing too. God is if everything's perfect, it's great. But God forbid something go wrong, now, and you've already spent the money, it's terrible.
Right.
It's terrible. Especially when you, when you scale that lifestyle, when you done bought them cars and bought them clothes and your lifestyle is matching the sales, but it's not really the profit.
So after those chicken restaurants, what was that next transition, the evolution of Zach?
So I saw a couple of things, coming about. The first thing I saw coming about was obviously all our restaurants were in the mall. Mm-hmm. So some tourist malls were doing great, but the average local malls, you could kind of see it was dwindling. This is online shopping coming, recession coming. Back when we were growing up, we would just walk the food court just to, look at girls, walk around, meet up. Or, I was so broke growing up. My mom would say, we just sampling. Just keep sampling until you get full. Just keep walking. Walk one more time.
I went to Sam's Club.
I ain't got nothing else at home. So take your big ass one more time and just make sure try the bourbon chicken again. So, but those things
bourbon chicken fire.
Yeah, but those things don't exist anymore. The mall used to be the hangout spot. Mm-hmm. Now your online shopping is on your phone. And you can just window shop here. Nobody knows you're broke, right? You can just stay on your phone. Oh, I ain't got the money for that. Wait, I know what I want to buy, but it's not physically like I got to be there.
Right.
So after the chicken spot, I could kind of see it dwindling. We didn't own the real estate. We had 56 locations nationwide, but we didn't own the properties. And essentially, we were paying rent for these locations. And you've seen the movie.
How much was the rent? How much
it depends. I mean, a lot of times entry level, the rents would average between $4,500 to $7,000
per location.
Per location. My highest rent here was at the Venetian. I had a restaurant inside the food court right in the Venetian Casino. My highest rent was $32,000. So just give you an example. On a low level, about $4,500. On a high level, about $32,000. That's per month.
Wow.
Obviously, these landlords get smart, and after you've been in there a couple of times,
they raise the rent.
They have you report your sales, and then they raise the rent. When we first go, you never heard of Chicken Now. You're like, who's this guy? And then when you start seeing the line, they're like, well, Chicken Man got some money. Let's go back and restructure that, or let's tell them, hey, if you don't pay it, Chick-fil-A will come in. So we were victim to that. So we didn't own the real estate. So here we go back to that movie, The Founder. It's not about selling hamburgers or chicken sandwiches. It's about the real estate.
Yeah.
And because at least you can control that variable. Food costs may vary. Sales may vary. But if I own my house, I know my house is paid for. God forbid if shit hits the fan, I can sell it. Mm-hmm. So my partners at the time kind of weren't really trying to go to the real estate model. So I kind of saw that coming. And then, we didn't really, because we had 56 stores, but we didn't have 56 stores in one area. So we weren't really able to get the best food cost pricing. Mm-hmm. You got a store in Puerto Rico, a store in Syracuse, a store in Utica, a store in, Seattle. So you got a bunch of stores, but they're not 50 in Las Vegas. So you can't really get the best food cost. Gotcha. That was kind of like the other hand writing on the wall. The last thing about it, just from a food standpoint, which was nobody's fault, my food is home cooking, mama's cooking. So by not being in one area, that quality control, I did the best I could. Down. But you put too much sugar, you put too much salt, and I'm at the Puerto Rico store, you at the Chicago store, you at the New York store. What really can I do? Right? What really can I do? Mm-hmm. You have a recipe, you have managers, but all it takes is a heavy hand, or somebody likes seasoning salt a little too much, and then here we go.
Okay.
The other thing too that so many people don't understand: don't be afraid of competition. Because with competition, at least you have awareness. Gotcha. So the biggest example you'll see, McDonald's, you always see Chick-fil-A, right? McDonald's, you always see Burger King. You always see somebody in the same, because they've done the market research. Whereas with us, we ran from a lot of competition, thinking that if we stayed away, that we'd have a better shot. But really, we ran away from market awareness and education. Right. I had stores in Seattle, they didn't know what Texas toast was. Mm-hmm. Store in Syracuse thought it was French toast. So now you got to honestly educate a customer on how to eat fried chicken. I'm from the South where, fried chicken, you know what it is. Sweet tea is diabetes in a cup. Mm-hmm. This is what it is. But that customer base, I don't want, so that becomes tough. And you'll see the big dogs, the In-N-Outs, the Chick-fil-A's, they stay in one area, they scale it. They might eventually grow, but they've got so much saturation in one area before they take that chance.
Definitely. Wow.
The beautiful part about kind of my steps of entrepreneurship at my chicken restaurant is where I was able to meet a lot of people, because I did get my hands dirty. Mm-hmm. Wasn't trying to do every post or micromanage, but I wanted you to be noticeable, at least have an eye on my business. And that's where met a lot of other people. They almost catapulted me to my next, endeavors and investments. Right. Yeah.
So the Chicken Now industry, you saw the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
What was that next step? Was it a complete demise?
No, it wasn't a demise. It was actually start listening to other people. So the next step was...
Good idea, bad idea.
Terrible.
So it was a demise.
Terrible. But it's gonna come off on paper. It's gonna look great. On paper, it's gonna look great, but inside, I'm dying inside. So this is 2013. At that time, about 56 restaurants. I sold majority of my stake of my chicken restaurants, and I actually went into corporate America. Listening to my mom, listening to people. Hey, you 30 years old. You done fried a lot of chicken, but you ain't Colonel Sanders.
Yeah.
You need to get a job. You know, you need to do this. You need to do that. You know, you 30 years old. You ain't Popeyes. You know, and this is somebody you done bought 5 BMWs and they're telling you now you got to go back to work, right? Yeah, but shit, you might have bought them. I wouldn't have had to get a goddamn job, right? But this is the type of mentality, listening to other people. So, hey, I'm about to be 30. So I literally put a search out, job search. I did everything, commercial real estate, all different types of things that would kind of somewhat be equivalent to the pay that I was getting. Keep in mind, I'm like, about $250,000 frying chicken. No job is going to pay you that right away, but at least you can kind of get into corporate America and hopefully work your way up.
So did you get your feet on the ground? Did you get your foundation back underneath you, or you just always continue to have that saying,
it was always that itch.
I want to get back in the corporate world.
I got in the car. I was like, I'm 30 years old, so on paper it makes sense. You're about to be 30. You're a black man. You've never worked for anybody. All you've done is fried chicken, and you're not Colonel Sanders. You need to work. You need to at least have the resume in place where, God forbid, you need a job. You have that. So I started looking at all these different avenues. And what I ended up getting into was pharmaceutical sales. Gotcha. I was the first legal pharmaceutical salesperson in my family.
Oh, okay. Legal pharmaceutical sales.
Yeah, you have to clarify that.
Legal pharmaceutical. I work for a company called
Please. Message.
Legal. First one. But I work for a company called AstraZeneca. I sold heart medication, medication for COPD. And what I came to find out, never had a science background, but I was great at sales, which showed me that, hey, as long as you're good with connecting and selling right, it doesn't matter really what you have. But what I came to find out in that industry is doctors want to practice medicine. If it's not on formulary, if it's not covered, there's really nothing that they can do. They really trying to practice medicine, but if your coverage can't really support what they're trying to really do for you, it's tough.
So the insurance would hold back some of the sales?
Yeah, it's just they stop it from a coverage standpoint. So let's just say you got a doctor wants to write something for your asthma. It's not covered on your insurance. Chances are they're going to give you a generic. We call it in the pharma industry the other white coat. So the doctor writes one thing, but when you go to the pharmacist, the pharmacist says, hey, Will, this ain't covered. We're going to give you a generic. So now I've lost the script. I did extremely well. I mean, I won West Coast Rookie of the Year. I got promoted 3 times, raises, all that company car, great benefits. But I just knew I just wasn't happy. And I just knew like a lot of ideas I would try to come up with. Our corporate base was in London. So if I'm telling him, hey, boss, I got an idea. You got to talk to 15 people just to do something so quick. Right. And with entrepreneurs, like if I need to make a change, we just do it. Yeah.
Just do it right now.
So that was tough, especially when you saw these changes affecting millions of dollars in patients and people like that. So that was one. But then I said, still drinking the Kool-Aid, still mama in my ear. I'm like, well, damn, you know what? Maybe it's just this job. Maybe it's not all jobs in corporate America. Maybe it's just this. So then I went to a market research firm in San Diego. And what we did was we sold market research intelligence to Fortune 500 companies. So let's just say Apple, Samsung, TCL, they have all this promotional data where they need to see how they're priced, how they come with their competitors. And so we essentially sold them that data. Any Fortune 500 company you could think of was technically our client. And so did that, super slow. I was still connecting with people, but still got that itch. But did well. It's at a high level. So I kind of, your point was almost how your intro to entrepreneurialism was almost like a layoff. Mine was a test. So I went into my boss's office and I said, look, I'm the first person that signed this deal. Y'all been chasing this company 15 years. I got them to sign. I was the first person to get people on multi-year contracts. I'm done. I'm only been 18 months. I've already talked to my mentor at the job and he thinks I can handle it. I'm not asking for your Rolls Royce or your Bentley, but give me your Lexus, give me your Mercedes, give me your Acura. Long story short, I need to make $250,000 to stay here, and I know I can do it. And the person who makes $250 says I can do it too. We went through it, I pitched and everything. So it was almost a test. And I'm like, I saved up and planned. I didn't know pandemic was coming, but I said, look, man, if you can't pay me $250, then we need to talk about my exit. In the nicest way, and it ain't got to be no fallout today. But, I'm just saying, like, we need to either show me a plan to get there or we got to show me a plan to hold last. And obviously, the plan was, hey, Zach, we ain't doing that.
You knew your worth and you applied the pressure.
I had to because I felt
you was willing to bet on yourself.
Correct.
Yeah,
that's correct. Like I said, I just didn't know pandemic was. I had everything figured out, but I just didn't have that shit. I don't think anybody did. But in 2019, that's when I went back into, I'd always kind of been like a silent investor, but 2019 is when I went back full throttle. I started my Cuban concept, which is the mother concept for this.
Okay.
And I also started Residency, which is my hat company. And Residency really was a customer who I met at my chicken spot. We became friends, and then that led to a business. But those were the two moments in my life from 30 to about 36 where I drank that corporate Kool-Aid. And I was like, man, you know, mama got a point. This is safe. The company car, the benefits, you know, but I look at it now like, you know, at the end of the day, my boss told me when I left, he's like, man, what you going to do? I was like, man, don't worry about it. You'll see. And I had no idea Residency was going to be on ESPN every 5 minutes. But he basically said, what you going to do? And I said, you'll see. And he asked me, said, well, you need any recommendations? Do you need me to put in a good word? I said, boss, I'll never be you working for you. Never be you. It's nothing against you, but like, I'll never be you. Your name is on this business. It's not mine, right? You can have the best salesman. If I close 100 accounts, you know, if I made you $1 million, you'd have made 15.
Man, I have a similar story to that.
Yeah.
So when the first time I left corporate America, I was doing internet sales for a company. I won't mention the name, but it rhymes with yellowpages.com.
Okay. Yep.
And so I was working for that company 2014, and I was jumping full-fledged into entrepreneurship. I invested in a franchise. And when I went in to put in my notice, my boss said, are you sure you want to make this decision? I said, absolutely. He said, oh, well, you'll be back. And I was like, what do you mean by that? He was like, most of them come back. Never went back.
Wow.
100%.
And the irony, in 2019, one of my managers asked to come and work for me.
That's what I'm talking about.
So this is why you got to bet on yourself, man. You have to bet on yourself.
And a lot of that it's just like that corporate trade. It's nothing against that. But like if you've been in that world for so long, you don't know anything else. I kind of related to that movie Shawshank Redemption, right? When you get so institutionalized, hey, when they let you free, you rather just almost be back institutionalized.
Exactly.
Because if you work for somebody, you can blame your boss if you don't get a raise. You can blame your boss if you show up late. Oh, well, your boss don't like me, he wrote me up. You a business person. If we turn the lights on late, ain't nobody calling. You know, it's on me. It's on me. If rent's not paid, if payroll's not paid, there's no excuse. And so a lot of times people hide in the shadows of that because it's so much easier to blame all. You know, my coworker and I are not getting along. But in entrepreneurialism, you constantly got to look in the mirror.
So what would you say is one of the biggest misconceptions people have about business
They think it's glamorous.
or entrepreneurship?
They think it's glamorous.
Because here's what I've learned.
Is it ugly cute chick?
Been an entrepreneur for going on 20 years. People think having an LLC is business.
Not at all.
So can you talk about some of the misconceptions?
You gotta break these categories down almost in like subcategories. But let's talk for number one. First, people are in this for clout. That's the first thing. People that's in it for clout.
Wow.
I want my name. I don't care. I don't care about the P&L. I don't care how much money we lose. That's my business. That's my clothing line. That's so and so. They don't really care. They're not really here to do business. It's almost like high school. As long as I'm popular, as long as I look good, and they're not really trying to really do business. That's number one. Number two, I think a lot of people where it's like they have this misconception going in where they don't know their full limit. It's almost like an athlete that's training. Right. They haven't really, you don't know how far you'll go until you do that extra rep. It's like, damn, my chest is about to collapse. I got one more bench press. And so many people are not willing to go to that level of craziness. Can't tell you how many times my bank account been negative. Can't tell you how many times, credit score been down. Can't tell you how many times I've loaned people money and not gotten it back. Can't tell you how many times people have not showed up to work and I had to cover their ass. Can't tell you how many times I've had to pay people and I haven't paid myself. Right. So that's the level of craziness that a lot of people just don't want to tap. And I don't blame you. I mean, who would want to put themselves as almost a sacrificial lamb? Yeah. And right. So it's like, if you don't want that life, that's nothing wrong with it. But that's the biggest misconception is like they want it for clout. And then the other part is what gear are you really ready to go to? How bad do you really want?
Speaking of that gear, and I have this thing, and Curtis and I always talk about this, is that rock bottom teaches you something that nothing else can teach you.
Yep.
What your limits are.
Yeah. Well, I got a remix quote that I use. The crazy thing is rock bottom don't scare me.
Because where else can you go?
No more.
You can't go anywhere. And that's why I'm always appreciative of every time I was put in a position to where I had to believe in just Will Roundtree.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? And so but then you start to also learn rock bottom is different for everybody.
Totally.
One person could lose their job. That's not their rock bottom. One person could be sleeping on Curtis's couch. That's not rock bottom
at all.
And so everybody has to find what is it going to take for you to say, you know what? I got to do something different.
Totally. And then the third part of that problem is the entrepreneur problem is how will people view me? How will people view me if I'm a failure? How will people look at me if they know I'm at rock bottom? Or if they know, oh, damn, Zach, I went by Mercadito. It's a little slow today.
But also even trying to have that, change people's perception of that because when you're an entrepreneur, you want to be perceived as a success.
Yeah.
So every day you walk around, you leave the house, you try to put your best outfit on in order to make yourself look like you're not really struggling in that capacity. Correct. But there's some times and days and times where you just really struggling. You don't fully get out the house, or you want to even be out in front of people.
Totally.
You don't want to talk to anybody because they don't know your struggles and what you're dealing with. 100%. And you had to put on this happy sales face, and you're not even in that capacity at that point.
Not at all, right?
Well, here's something interesting to that point. I often say that most people don't know the definition of words that they use.
Yes, sir.
And when it comes to the word
definition
failure,
king, that's the king right here.
You already know. I'm pulling up Webster's version.
I love you.
Load it up, baby.
I actually did a TED talk in 2018 talking about the power of failure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And most people think that failure is final.
Yeah, no.
Failure is only when you decide to say, I stop.
Right.
But here's the textbook definition of failure. The omission of expected or required action.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just stop, that's when you fail.
Right.
But to try something, all you're doing is collecting data.
Correct.
And so unfortunately, people have a misconception of what they think failure is, not knowing that all they're doing is collecting data.
Yep.
And that's why I say every time that I went through a failure that the society deemed as failure, it just showed me what not to do.
Correct.
And I was willing to figure that out until I got it right, because I only had to get it right once.
That's it.
It's a lesson in every day.
That's
where that mantra comes from. It's a lesson in every day. You're going to continue to keep going. You haven't failed yet. You just took a loss.
Definitely.
No, that's key. And I think, just like we talked, just allowing this comfort zone of failure, of not being embarrassed or thinking what people think, or being afraid to ask for help, or I mean, it's like, not only you learning something from the actual moment where you fail, you learning a lot about that situation. Who was down with you? Who was there? Not only what not to do, who not to do it with, and when to do it. All these different subcategories of just being vulnerable to trying new stuff, man. So anyway, like
so next transition, the pandemic hits.
Yeah, pandemic hits. We go right into residency.
How did residency?
So residency started out with a business partner of mine named Angelo, who was actually a customer in my chicken restaurant. And Angelo, he's super bougie. We sell fried chicken. He come and he want broccoli and salads and all this stuff. I'm a hustler. So after a while, I'm like, all right, Angelo, you on this new diet or whatever you want. All right, we're gonna come up with something. It's not on the menu, but I'll make you something.
Right.
And so we ended up just kind of starting out as a joking customer friendship and eventually became a business relationship. But when we met, we were in Las Vegas, and I'm from Tampa, Florida, and anybody who's moved to California, been in California, knows that obviously it's a huge shock, culture shock financially.
Definitely.
Tax-wise, rent-wise, cost of living. So I actually moved to San Diego in 2016. Angelo moved to LA in 2017. So we had a liquor game one day, just chopping it up still, haven't started any businesses yet. And he's like, man, Zach, how you doing it, man? I see you riding good, you looking good, you going out. I said, well, a couple things. I was a business person when you met me, so obviously I had some capital there. And quite frankly, Angelo, if you ain't got more than one hustle going, you ain't gonna make it out here.
No,
kill me like gas been $6 in San Diego. So people like it's this shock you gotta understand. And he was like, man, well, I want to do something, but I don't know what. And you know how it is. Anytime you're in business, people got a bright idea to how to invest your money.
Definitely.
So I said, okay, Angelo, well, let's do this because everybody got an idea. And, we had a couple drinks in us. So let's get sober and let's see if you really want to do this. Right. And so he said, what do you? I said, what? I said, I got this hat idea. I got this. All right, just calm down. You come to me with a prototype. I'm not promising you anything, but if the hats look dope, if they look cool, let me just try to get into some front of people and let's talk. And so he, unlike most people, he took me up on the homework. He came with a prototype. Our first hat was an LA hat. And I'm just kind of wearing it like here, not even trying to sell it. And people asking like, damn, where's that hat at? Where'd you get that? Or where can I buy one? So I'm like, okay, perfect. We got something here because I'm not even trying to sell it, and people are asking me.
So you were the case study in that.
Yeah, kind of. But I'm just putting the fit together. I wouldn't call it. The case study was me. I'm going out tonight, and somebody asks me about it, then we got to hit.
Gotcha.
Right, and so it was just, and people, obviously at different levels, and so that's how we started. And I said, okay, so we got a product. We don't have a business. We got a product. We just flipping hats in front of the flea market right now.
Exactly.
So now it's like, okay, what's the branding? So he made first hat was LA hat. So we start going down. I almost called it like at my office. I like whiteboard. We have an idea, and then boom, we go here, and then we go there. I say, so what do we want to do? You want to make city hats? He's like, yep. I'm like, okay, so we represent cities. Well, what's another word for city? Residencies, residents. I'm a resident. I reside here. Right. So we start doing wordplay. At that time, I said, okay, cool. So now we want to call it. But I just don't want to be an LA hat. I want to be worldwide. So we started playing around with it. At that time, that Rick Ross, that Vegas Residency song was out. I was listening to that. So then we just started brainstorming, and that's how essentially the company vision was meant. Right.
Shout out to Ross. Shout out to Ross.
Yeah, definitely shout out to Ross. That's another hustler, man. Ross is another whole case study. It really is Ross.
No, for
but
sure.
Long story short, that's how we started.
And he was in the chicken.
100%. And so that's how we kind of started with just growing the brand. Essentially. But we knew we wanted to scale something.
Right. And
kind of our niche market at the time in 2019 was giving people a different option. So like if you're from New York, chances are you're wearing a Yankee hat. Chances are if you're from LA, you're wearing a Dodger hat. Well, maybe you don't like sports. What do you wear? What are you trying to give people a different option, a fresh logo, something that they hadn't seen before? Especially people, if you don't like sports at all, you're kind of forced to wear a sports team hat just to rep your city.
Exactly.
So our thing was, let's take the sports out of it and let's just make fresh designs that everybody would like. And if you love your city and you love hats, you're our customer. So that was the brand mission in 2019. Pandemic comes. So I'm like, all right, country shut down. That's out the window. We got to get this shit popping. So that's when I went back to the football model of essentially like, okay, I didn't play pro, but I know a lot of people in the NFL. I know how they work. I know how they think. I know what they like. And so let me just try to at least get it popping through this NFL route. And that's where it's obviously taking us to the next level.
Gotcha.
But as we continue to grow now, it's still this brand vision of if you love your city, you love hats, you're our customer.
Gotcha.
It's a lifestyle brand, right? And showing people different products and quite frankly, showing different people in society with our hats on. Women, golf, fishing, pickleball, all these different types of walks of life. So that's how Residency started. And that's kind of where we are right now. We're in 32 U.S. markets, getting ready to go to Japan, Canada, and Mexico this upcoming year.
We have Puerto Rico hat too?
Well, not yet. It's coming.
Okay,
It's coming. They don't know about that.
Okay.
It's coming. Puerto Rico, DR, all those different places. But we're in 8 different NFL, hockey, and NBA arenas. And literally, it's the same model, man. It's all about representing your residency. And what we found from a lot of the players is, let's say you play for the 49ers. You don't mind repping the SF hat when you go out to the club or Noble or somewhere, but you don't want to wear something that the equipment man gave you. So you want an elevated product. You kind of want I don't mind repping my city or my team, but give me a hat that's not something I wear when I'm in practice or something that, the equipment man gave me real quick, while I'm getting ready to change clothes. And so that's what we've seen, almost like if you know, and then that has obviously resonated well with the fans. And then now what we're taking the hat, and you kind of see like the hat I have on, where some of these players, the modern day player understands equity. Yeah. They understand business. And quite frankly, they don't just want to shut up and dribble or play. They want to have something that quite frankly can outlive them, outlive their career.
A brand equity.
Yeah, a brand equity piece. So like, hey, I'm already fashionable anyway. How do I get into this? They don't really want to necessarily worry about the production, the manufacturing, or the fulfillment, or the scaling, but they know, hey, I'm already wearing dope clothes. Kind of, how can you help me?
Correct.
So we work with athletes like George Kittle, Trent Williams, to actually kind of create their own brand or own line, if you will. And then now we handle all the back end stuff to kind of get it to grow. So
you just started transitioning Residency to a partnership with athletes and helping them grow their brand. And
correct.
So that's a super entrepreneur.
Almost like So I use them all like in the restaurant business. You would have takeout, you would have catering, you would have dine in, and you would have to go. Right,
multiple streams.
And so it's the same thing. Exactly, same thing with us. Right, we do white label for athletes. We do brand development.
Wow.
And so it's just I'm big on like once you get in the room, how do you maximize that room? What else needs to be served? And I think to a certain extent we've shown that we are professional, we're genuine, and we do good business, and which is the hardest part for young entrepreneurs. I think a lot of these people, everybody wants to kind of give the new people a chance, but I don't want to get burned by giving you a chance.
Right.
And so we did it super organically with the athletes and how we grew. And it was like, look, we don't do nothing rush. We don't force nobody to wear nothing. And I think those organic relationships led to, okay, Zach, can we do this? What's next?
Mm-hmm. So in hearing all of that you talked about with Residency, me being an entrepreneur, here's all I heard. It costs a lot of money to do all of that.
Yes.
So I'm gonna tell you yes and no.
All right.
So I'm gonna tell you the sad, the good story, and the bad story. I paid it on the back end. So full transparency, Angelo and I started Residency with $300. Now, if you add, I was making $150,000 a year. It's been 5 years since I had a job. And you do the math on that. You add about how over time the funding, the cash calls every month, the reinvestment every month. You're looking at probably a $2 to $3 million startup. But truth be told, me and Angelo put $300 together. We started our LLC. We went and got some prototype hats. I got it to the right people.
Right.
How could I have paid Trent Williams, George Kittle, and Debo? How could I, as a new business person, could I have paid them? So I couldn't have paid them from a marketing standpoint starting off.
Yeah.
So it almost was like free and then it got expensive.
Yeah.
Right.
But over time we paid it. But that initial cash call, which was, and that's the thing. So many people, how could you have predicted?
Right.
Right. When you started this, like my mama thought I was crazy. Like, you got a big ass head. Now you selling hats. Who can buy these damn hats? I need to get my hair done. And you talking about a hat. You know what I'm saying? This is mama, right? Mama talking. But when Derek Carr put that hat on, mama's baby.
Right.
That's my baby.
That's my baby on TV right there.
They'll say
that's
nothing.
My baby.
Right. And so that's just the level of how it which was it was a trap. You know, you get so enticed and so in love with this, but not understanding. Like, you're going to pay it on the back end.
Yeah, and that's really the point I was trying to get to. People don't understand business takes money.
Correct.
Because everything does have a cost, whether it's on the front end or the back end.
Correct.
So can you talk about that as far as just like the cost of doing business?
Okay.
Not necessarily how much it costs you, but the cost of doing business.
All right, so let's just use an example. All right, so obviously I'm an online business. Besides the 8 different arenas, we sell hats online and shoe pallets. Everything else is online. So let's just say today, if I did $100,000 in sales, which we haven't made today, hopefully we do, but we haven't. But we make $100,000 a day. I didn't really make $100,000. I probably profited anywhere from 18 to 22 because I've had to run sales, I've had fulfillment, I've had the supply of that. So that's when Will is referencing like it costs to make money or it costs to do this. You know, you see $100,000 as a consumer or as a new maybe business owner, but what I see is 18 to 22 because of the profit margins, the payouts, and what I'm really gonna touch.
Right.
The other part is
you pay the taxes on 100.
That's exactly.
People don't look at that.
Not at all. And the other part about this conversation is if you haven't been in business for a long time, where you have almost consistent sales. It's almost, I don't want to say, I definitely don't want to say don't make the 100K, but it's almost like you've never done this before. So you're almost put into a traumatic situation. It almost would be better if you just let's just make 10,000 a day. Yeah. Right. Because sometimes those crazy influx in sales can honestly hurt you.
Oh, mentally.
Yeah. Mentally, financially, getting ready, production. Because the average customer doesn't understand now. They think you Amazon. Right. Hey, I ordered my hat. Where's my hat? Yeah. They don't understand that, this is not as easy as it may look. So it's all good problems to have. We've been super blessed. And how we've been able to have those crazy swings is because there's so much like hype behind our hats, or like Christian McCaffrey, Super Bowl, he getting off the plane, he's wearing our hat. Yeah. I didn't call Christian and say, Christian, 2:00, wear the hat. We didn't know. So shit, we go right into sales because of what's happened on the internet. Yeah. And I don't think the customer understands that. Like,
even piggybacking off that, you had Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, wearing your hat.
Yeah.
And all the press conferences. Right. This guy's Mr. Irrelevant, but you can see two guys that are building equity within each other.
Correct.
You, Brock Purdy, having his brand. Yeah. And another guy, what's his name? Having Faith brand.
Yeah, Eric Harris.
I mean, they have some great brands over here at Residency, but they're growing equity within these different brands with these players.
And because you haven't had the history of the sales, you almost have to prepare for the unknown. Yeah. Which can be super costly. Yeah. And keep in mind, your vendors know that. The thread count, the thread price went up 20 cents. Well, why did it go up? Did you see McCaffrey? Like, are you counting pockets? Yeah. And that's why I'm getting different pricing. Yeah. It's almost like, you don't have 20 years of business data to really lock in contract pricing, at least these new businesses. Right. Like, literally what happened to me was 2019 we started, 2021 we went on Reddit. I don't know if the 49ers had a team meeting or what, but literally every day, Fred Warner, that time Trey Lance, Debo, Trent, everybody went on the press conference. Shanahan, every press conference they wore a hat. So then that went on Reddit. So when it went on Reddit, we went viral. We went from probably 900 a day to 9,000 a day.
That's a blessing.
Right? It is. But the back end is the get ready piece. Yeah, that's the cost, right? Like, people ain't stupid. They're like, you weren't busy like this last week, Zach? Right. So we about to text your ass. Yeah. But we don't know if you're going to be busy next week. So we're going to get it while we can. And I just think I saw the chicken game. I saw like when I started doing sales, all of a sudden chicken going up. Why is chicken going up? Right. Chicken don't go up for Popeyes. They got their contract pricing for the year, but a lot of those mom and pop young businesses don't have that luxury.
Right. And most people don't plan for that who are in business because, like you say, they make 100, they spend 100.
Correct.
Because they got to look like they made the 100. 100%. So then when the cost of chicken goes up 30 cents, it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're ordering in bulk, that 30 cent adds up. Totally. And that's why I always talk about there's a cost to doing business that most people never think about.
Not at all.
And that's one of the things that we try to teach here within our company at We Management Services. And I really talk about this in our 4 steps. And you covered every single step. One, the mindset of an entrepreneur. When you're going into business, you got to pretty much undownload everything you've learned because we're going into with this unconceived notion of, oh, it's easy. I'm popular. Everybody know me. My family gonna support me, and none of that shit is gonna happen.
Not at all. I ain't got one family member. Even mama ain't buy her hat. I swear, not one family member's bought a hat. Not one family member's bought a damn Cuban sandwich. Hollywood, I'm talking to you. You always want your extra sandwich.
But they ask you for one every day, though.
100%.
How many times I snuck up in the office and grabbed a hat?
Yeah, but I get it on the back end with you. I get on you back end. You ain't the front end, but you damn sure good on the back end.
For sure.
And like I said, even with free product, I don't mind giving away hats. But where?
Yeah.
Where? Don't ask me for a free hat on full-time CEO jacket.
Go check our podcast. I got a few residency hats on there.
Where's the hat? Oh, man, I left it in the car. I ain't got it. Like, you wouldn't do New Era like that. If New Era was handing out free hats, you'd be, man, I got a New Era plug.
For sure.
So it's just like, just embrace it, man, and understand like all of this is real estate. Digital real estate, physical real estate.
Right.
And if you won't put yourself on, or if you don't believe in your brand, why would I?
Definitely.
If you embarrassed, if you won't wear my hat, but you want to wear the Amiri hat. Well, I mean, you ain't Amiri.
And it's the same material.
It's the same material.
It's the same material. So that goes back to the mindset. That's step number one.
Yeah.
Step number two, I'll talk about. We got to understand credit. Because a lot of times when you're going into these brick and mortars, they're running your credit.
100%.
And that can determine whether you're at $1 a square foot or $1.75 a square foot. That can break a business early.
Totally.
And so we got to start to understand credit is bigger than just trying to get a credit card in the car. Number three, going back to understanding finance and the cost of money. We have to understand the economics of business. We have to understand the economics of our money. Even when you look at someone who works a W-2 job, if your company pays you $50,000 a year, $50,000 doesn't go through your bank account at all. But you've calculated your expenses to live off of on the $50,000.
Based on that.
So we got to understand the cost of money in finances. And number four, which you talked about, which probably could have saved your chicken now industry is the assets. We got to own real estate.
Totally.
Because here's the thing I love about real estate, and then we'll go back into residency and what you have working now, is that, and you even touched on this, and this is what I travel the world teaching about. If I buy real estate and I could spend every dime buying real estate, but buying it the right way, not trying to chase a dream in the game of real estate. If shit hit the fan, all I got to do is liquidate. And now I've at least got back to ground zero and I can rebuild again. But see, most of us, we just want to, we don't understand, or we're looking at the bad side. Oh, well, I don't want to have to repair toilets. I don't want to have to do that. But not understanding that as long as you own assets, you're never broke.
No, never. But this whole let's talk about let's talk about credit. Right, start there. All right, because it's the same thing with real estate. We're afraid. My whole life, I can't tell you how many times I heard I'm scared of getting a credit card. I don't want them to have my information. I mean, Chang ain't got your information. It's like, come on, man, like scared.
But they'll run their credit at Rent-A-Center
all day long,
and they'll run their credit to go get that card. But they'll run their credit to go get that card.
It's crazy. Oh man, like I just it's just the fear of just that. And then, the cultural aspect of real estate is renting. Renting Section 8, we'd rather stay in Section 8 and not own it. But we understand the tenant side of Section 8, but we don't understand the ownership side of Section 8. So it's just that fear, or just that responsibility, or just the pride in like, hey man, this is something that I have. It's tough, man.
But also with the credit, a lot of people, like what we teach, they don't know what you do with the credit once they get it. Because what do we want? What is it? Maybe I'll say culturally, what do we want to do? We want to go out and get nice things that make us look like we're winning or we're balling. But at the same time, what we teach is trying to teach somebody what to do with the credit once they get it. If you need working capital, let's go figure out how to make this work for you and to bring you back more money instead of just putting yourself in debt and going to make yourself look good. And then you can't even sell none of that stuff as an asset.
So the other thing that trips me up that's the answer to all this stuff is, we know how to consume,
of course.
So as in minorities, we know how to consume. We know how to buy. We know how to purchase.
Right.
We also know how to sell. We can sell the hell out of some shit.
That is very true.
Now, the reason I bring this up is if you can sell and you know the aspect of how to consume, then you understand cash flow.
Yeah.
Which is really like you go around and talk. I go around and talk to kids. They ask me. I say I'd rather have $100,000 a month of cash flow than have a net worth of $2 million. I would, because if I get that cash flow, I mean, y'all the funding boys. Y'all already know what y'all can do. If I come in there with 100,000 consistently cash flow with a good credit score,
we're gonna bang you up,
man. That's sky's the limit, and that can be through multiple entities
for sure.
So just understanding that, like, and if you got this beautiful network but you can't touch it, or you can't make a move with it, or to your point, you can't liquidate, what really do you have?
Definitely. Yeah. And I see this all the time. I know I have clients who have $200,000, $300,000, $500,000 of equity in assets, but they credit 500.
Come on,
and they're stuck. And that's why the credit is so important. So from a business owner who has brick and mortars and has companies, how important have you seen credit? In your space?
Yeah, I mean, speak personally, giving you just like a vulnerable, true story, right? So I think the first part of me is like, we go back to the trauma of nobody believing. But let's just say, just young black kid, right, starting a business. Even mama said I was crazy with that. So how is mama going to give you a loan? How nobody really believes. So it's almost like you have to get it to pop. The only way I got this to pop was putting my own money, right? Now I get it. And this is just the oldest, like from trauma to me getting untraumatized, right? So you start out. I'm a proven concept now. Of course. So now I'm a little bit, I'm really understanding credit and what it could do. But I think as a young entrepreneur, like Kanye said, I'll do anything to say I got it. I want to, all right, mama, you ain't believe? Watch this. Right. Watch what I do with these $500, $300, $400, $500. I bet you, watch how I blow this up. Yeah. So literally it started just cash. You make 5, you spend 2. That's how we started so many different businesses, restaurant, the same way. Even my partners, they come from Asia. Ain't nobody giving them no credit. You fresh out here from Taiwan. You putting this thing together. You got 50, you got 50, you got 50. We got 150. Let's open up a restaurant. Wow. So it's just a cash
credit
flow
partner.
Ghetto credit partner, right? But that's what we've been taught. Yeah. Because nobody until the Will Roundtrees of the world get here has really sat down and be like, look, I come from the same circles, the same environment, identical. Probably even got a sadder story than you, Big Zach. This is how you do it. And this is how you can do it with credit. But I think initially for young entrepreneurs, you weren't around. I mean, the Will Roundtree, I wish I would have met you at 23. Where you would have saved millions of dollars in business mistakes. You would have saved $1 million in pain. And you ain't no telling where I would be from a scale standpoint. Wow. But, Will Roundtree at that time didn't live on my block. And, mama said I was crazy and, go get a job and that's safe. So... it's all those type of things that eventually affect this almost end play that he's describing. But this is the way to go. Right. This is the way to go. I would never start a new entity without this formula. Right. But starting out, if you tell people you want to start a hat company, they're going to tell you crazy. Wow. They're going to tell you crazy. Yeah. Even with the credit. I mean, you ain't never going to be able to pay Will back.
We're gonna show you how to do it.
Right, you get what I'm saying? But that's the problem, right? You've got to have that nurturing people that understand that.
Definitely. And that's what he's good at, man. That's what he's done for me, myself, and we continue to spread that message, and I'm trying to spread it out to as many people as I can. So, I mean, man, you have a great story.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate it.
And so, what's next for Zach?
Yeah, what's next, man? What's next is. There's a whole back end side of Residency. I have diabetes right before it took off. So it's crazy, man. I thought I had like some gastro problems and stuff like that, but literally, I made it to the hospital just in time. Had I been an hour late, I would have died. My sugar was 823. Man. Luckily, they got me there. But this was just, as you start a business, here goes another monkey wrench, thrown at you, life. Man. So now you're struggling with health, you're struggling with this, and so that was kind of a testimony to it. But to answer your question, what's next? Is literally showing people this duplication process of what can be done. Right. I didn't go to Wharton School of Business. I didn't have a rich daddy. I didn't know Will then. Yeah. Right. Now I do, but I didn't then. So literally, how can this be duplicated? Whether it's on the athlete level, like Brandon Ayuk or Trent, or whether, hey, you're just a young person just trying to start something you're passionate about. Wow. I do like the $300 story because when I go to schools and talk to kids, I'm like, man, you got a $300 pair of Yeezys on right now. What you talking about? You can't start a business. Right? So don't give me this. Oh, I ain't got it. I can't do it. If you just pawn your clothes, you will be first year funded. Exactly. So just giving them that mindset of like, look, we got it. You ask mama or daddy.
Turn them Balenciagas in.
100%. And so that's what I showed, trying to start from a business. But I think it's just the duplication of that. You just kind of see, like, even on my IG, I've kind of rebranded. My last name is King. Yeah. So I kind of rebranded myself as King Size. But King Size is literally just somebody. It's just a myth. It's a character where it's like, you can do it. Yeah. Every sad story you got, chances are we got it. It's also a way to cross cultures. Business partner Chinese, other business partner Italian and Filipino. Mama Black went to Hampton, Daddy went to Morehouse, wife Mexican. So we got the United Nations here, and just showing people like, look, different cultures. Even like my homeboy's beer company, La Bodega Beer, just showing these different branches. Because so many times, worms. Yeah, worms and candy. But just showing people how do we come together before we can get money together. We got to come together, right? And so many of these different people, even European people that came, they had the same problems, but they learned like if we can work together in some capacity, and I mean you got to get along with everybody, but as long as we can find a way to essentially mesh, we can get money together. And that's what King Size is, bringing these people together, showing them what we can do. A lot of stuff is funny skits that I'm doing, reenacting some of my favorite movies. You may not know who the hell I am, but you know this movie, or you know this quote, or stuff like that. So anyway, that's the next move. And I think on the restaurant side, we do have another Cuban location here opening up in about 2 weeks on Sahara. So the mother company, this is Mercadito. The mother company is Cubanidad, 1885. There are 3 locations here in Vegas, and this will be our 4th. But it's literally all my group is from Florida. It's home cooking, authentic, Cuban food. Our chef, Dennis Martinez, he kind of did the whole menu and everything is organic. We kind of felt in Vegas a lot of Hispanic Mexican food, but not really Cuban, that South American, Jamaican, Caribbean flavor. And so we brought that here in 2019. And it's done well. Anytime you open up a business during a pandemic and a recession, and for you to keep your doors open, it kind of speaks to, hey, at least somebody liked the food.
Got a success story.
That's basically where I'm at, man. And a lot of times, you sharing your story and being vulnerable, we kind of are the sacrificial lambs of the world, but encouraging people like, look, you ain't got to go through, I pray you don't. And it's going to be something, not saying you won't have any trial or tribulations, but a lot of this stuff is already, like I said, I wish I would have met, if Will Roundtree was on my blog, he would have saved me a lot of time. And you're not less of a person or a man or a business person by asking for help. Hell, I just asked him for fun 2 days ago. How we doing on the way? I know I got something I got to fill out, but like I need help. And not me. I don't care how many hats I sell. Or if you see Debo and Trent dancing, like that's still need exactly.
And that's what I tell people is like you want to get the money when you don't need it.
Correct.
Because when you need it, usually you can't get it.
100%.
And that's really the mindset shift that I'm trying to help a lot of entrepreneurs. Because here's the thing. Why would you want to use all your own money?
Never. They don't. Anybody really wealthy that I talked to was always, first thing they're going to start a raise. They're going to start this whole debt. And this is how we do this whole thing. It's like, well, show me the part of the deck where you put your 50 grand up like I did. I don't see this. I don't see it in your deck. I see the projections and the this and that, and the preferred paper. I don't see you going in your pocket, and that's not how it's supposed to be.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up, Zach, first of all, thank you for allowing us to come into your story.
100%.
Great story.
Just being the ultimate entrepreneur, being the ultimate full-time CEO. And I always say being a full-time CEO, the reason I started that brand, it was really about having vision.
Correct.
It was about mindset. It wasn't necessarily about working for yourself. Because I know a lot of entrepreneurs who are broke. 100%. I know a lot of people who made a lot of money and they broke. So it's really about just having that vision. It's about having that mindset. And so what would you like the people to be left with?
So 2 things I want to be left with, kind of give you your flowers while you here. How I see full-time CEO is everything you said, but also if you start a business looking for an off day, it ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen. I'm telling you right now. And that's a good thing. That's a bad thing. If something bad goes wrong, you got to be ready. And if somebody got a bag for you, or so I got to play, you got to be ready. So the full-time. I hate that absentee owner. Definitely. And I'm not saying slave away and not have a life, but if you're doing this thinking you're going to be in Cancun every week, it's just not possible. And the next thing I want to give you your flowers for is actually just how you are presenting this banking, funding, credit thing. It's digestible for people. You ain't coming in here in a 3-piece suit, looking like you at Lehman Brothers. Like you look like us. You can speak to us. You can speak above us when you need to. Like you just know how to nurture the need and quite frankly the market. And that's not to say you can't put that 3-piece suit on and go in Goldman Sachs or if you want. You can do that too. But just to touch a lot of these people, you got to really touch them. And you got to have these things in your arsenal that you understand. And it's got to be digestible for them to understand and quite frankly fuck with you.
Thank you, man.
I love y'all for that because it's not above people. Because some of this stuff, it really is like you're speaking a different language.
Definitely.
If you're not groomed in this, it's like, what you talking about? We're just talking creative partners. Like this don't. My wife, my partner, talking about my wife. Look, I thought I was your partner. How you over there with Will? So it's just so easy for people, and it's refreshing. And then now, once they get in this ecosystem, they understand it, and then we can scale.
Definitely.
And I'm big on that. Like, you see all the big boys do it. Apple, they get eco. You got your iPhone, you ain't gonna get no Galaxy tablet.
Right.
You know, you in that ecosystem, and now we can really do something. So I'll give you a flower. I appreciate you, bro.
Thank you.
Always, man.
Definitely,
Appreciate my G.
So social media wise, where can they find you at?
Yeah, so obviously, let's start from the top. You know, obviously, Residency, that's our baby. So here we go, Residency with 3 on Instagram. Mercadito LV over here at Uncommons in Las Vegas. Yeah, like I say, Zach, my king size Instagram right there, man. And honestly, man, hit us up, man. Like, if questions, anybody in the restaurant game wants, maybe you're a chef and you want to start your business, maybe you're a hat person and you want to start a fashion company. Anybody, hey, I ain't above answering to nobody. You got a questions, email me, DM me. Because that information is money and currency on its own. And so many of us are scared to ask for help or question. So like I tell people, ain't no dumb question and I ain't too big to hit nobody back.
For sure.
Yeah. Where can they find you at, Kurt?
Definitely can find me at Mr. C. Blair and Associates online. So you can find me on all social media platforms at the same platform.
And don't forget to tell them, Kurt, get this insurance, man.
Oh, yeah.
No, that's a whole other episode.
That's a whole other episode. Get your life insurance. Make sure your property and casualty insurance is all paid up. I mean, got that on deck because a lot of people out here riding around bad and their businesses and their properties do not have any adequate insurance, but also taking your wealth game to the next level and using the strategies of equity inside your life insurance policies as well to grow your assets as well.
And
so that's another strategy.
Life insurance is not me gambling that you gonna die.
No, it's not gambling. There's living benefits to life insurance as well.
Don't ask me to bury if you ain't get that policy. I got a joke at my house. You come for Thanksgiving dinner, I'm gonna put a policy on you.
Hey,
I'm gonna put a policy. You coming?
Yeah, I'm definitely. You got one on me already. As much like I put in for the guys.
I need that Lords of London. That big $5 million on you.
But when it comes to insurance, here's the thing, and then we'll wrap up. When I learned that the 2 ways that wealth are passed down from generation to generation in almost every
real estate and life
community except ours is real estate and life insurance.
And life insurance.
Blew me away. And guess what place we're in?
Last?
No, dead last.
And what do we got for everybody? What do we got for everybody?
Insurance.
Real estate and insurance.
So my name is Will Roundtree. You can follow me across all social media platforms at Mr. Will Roundtree, and that's MR Will Roundtree. And this is another episode of the FullTime CEO podcast where we interview dope individuals like Mr. Zach King. Look, make sure y'all tap in, like, comment, share, follow, and make sure y'all go follow my brother. And more importantly, y'all already know the drill. I'll see y'all at the top. Let's go.
Let's get it.